In addition to being able to create point or headline type, which we covered in the Photoshop Essential Training Basics class, Photoshop can also create area type. Now, to make this easier, I've included a bunch of type in this note in the upper left-hand corner. If you double click on that, it will open up the Notes panel, and then we can do a quick Command C in order to copy that text to the clipboard. Then we'll just minimize that. Then I'll type the T key in order to select the text tool and right-click on the type icon in order to reset the tool. Now to create the area text, I'm going to click and drag out an area in my image. Photoshop will automatically populate that with some placeholder text, but I'm going to use Command V in order to paste in the type that we copied to the clipboard. If I need to resize the text box, I can drag any of the handles, which will change the line breaks or the text blocks. In order to move the entire text block, I can hold down the Command key on the Mac or the Control key on Windows and then click and drag it around. I'll reposition it back in that lighter area and just make it a little bit larger. In order to commit to the text, I'll tap the Enter or the Return key. Now, with the Type tool still selected, I can make changes to the text in the Properties panel. You'll notice there are a lot of different options for character. Let's change the font size down to 9 and then tap Enter in order to apply that. There's a More icon down here that I've got showing the 2 additional options. Yours by default might show fewer options. I'm going to scroll down to the paragraph area where you can see that I can change alignment as well as justification. I can change the indents, the first line indents, as well as the spacing between paragraphs and enable hyphenation. But if I want to access even more advanced options, then I'll choose the Type menu, select Panels, and then Paragraph panel. We can also access these underneath the Window menu. I'm going to separate these and drag them onto the left-hand side here, just so that we can see the text that we're changing. From the flyout menu on the Paragraph panel, I can select Roman hanging punctuation. This will allow some of the characters to go slightly outside of the bounding box, and visually it's just going to make the area text look a little bit more balanced. There are also additional justification options that I can change. At 100%, there's no additional spacing added, but I could change, for example, the glyph spacing from maybe 98 to 102% if I thought that that would help the body of the text look better. There's also more controls for hyphenation that I can access. For example, there's more controls for things like determining the maximum number of consecutive lines in which hyphenation can occur. One other option to mention, after hyphenating something, if you see a word that you don't want to break, you can select it and then move to the Character panel and choose the No Break option. If you're working with multiple paragraphs, you might want to change from Adobe Single Line Composer to the Every Line Composer. This can help make the body of the text look a lot more solid, and it can also help what are known as rivers in blocks of text, where there's kind of awkward breaks of text, including widows and orphans, when there's very little text on, say, the last line of a paragraph or at the beginning of a column of your area text. Finally, if you choose the World Ready layout, it's going to enable features to support additional languages. For example, once you enable it, you can then access the Middle Eastern and the Southeast Asian features. All right, before we wrap up, I'm just going to triple click here in order to select the first row, and then I'll go ahead and center align that. I might also change the font here to bold just to make it a little bit heavier. And then I'll hold down that Command key and just reposition this so that it's down a little bit and looks more centered. I'll tap Enter and Return in order to apply that. And then, of course, I could always switch to the Move tool if I just wanted to nudge it down a little further. So there you go, a quick introduction to paragraph or area type in Photoshop.